is Thursday, March 1st, 2018, and this is the Nevertheless She Composed web series, a contemporary video anthology of women composers of the 21st century. Today, our guest composer is Amber Beams. Hey, Amber, how are you?
I'm doing good, Liz. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule tonight and doing this interview. We are meeting via Skype, and we'll talk about why we're meeting via Skype. So, Amber, before I get into our long history, why don't you just take a few minutes and introduce yourself to us before we get started?
Okay. Well, I am from Rochdale, Indiana. Is where I grew up. I grew up on a farm with my parents, which I absolutely love, and I believe that's kind of what has inspired me to write, especially some certain pieces that hopefully we can talk about maybe a little bit during this interview. I did my undergrad degree at the University of Indianapolis, and I did my master's degree at Butler University. And I'm still currently composing, and I'm also working at J.W. Pepper Music.
Awesome. So we will have this hour to talk about all the ways we know each other, but just first a quick background. Amber, I think we figured out that we are going on as very, very dear friends for almost 9 years now. And we did our undergraduate and our master's degree together at the University of Indianapolis and Butler University in downtown Indy. So I laughed and said, I'm going to catch a lot of flack for doing this interview because we're such dear friends, but there's so many special things about you, not just our friendship, but special things about you as a composer that fascinates me. And those are the things that we'll highlight in addition to all of the great times we've had together over the years. So thanks again. So the format of this interview, just like the others before and to come, is past, present, and future. So we're going to start with the past, and we're going to let you go back as early as you'd like to. And just, you already mentioned about your childhood, but talk to us about maybe whatever you want to talk about, your early education and more about what inspired you to become a composer.
Well, what really got me started on music was actually my aunt and my uncle. They used to take me to the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra when I was young, and I just fell in love with it. My parents don't have any music background. No one in my family plays an instrument. I'm it. So it's kind of different, but that's okay. Sure. So, of course, I was involved in the marching band and the concert band, and I did solo and ensemble and stuff like that. But when I left high school, I actually didn't pursue music right away. I actually went on to try to study dental hygiene, which was a bad idea. So I said, 2 years of that, I was like, this is not working for me at all. So I transferred, and I ended up at the University of Indianapolis, where I met Liz, and she was really involved in this composition thing, and I still didn't know what I was doing as a music student. And then I saw she was doing it, and I thought, why not? I can do this too. So that's how I got started on doing that.
Absolutely.
It was actually from you, Liz.
I actually did not know that really formally, so that's news to me. And if you thought I knew what I was doing, that was the blind leading the blind. So
you sure looked like you knew what you were doing.
Well, it's easy when you do what you love, and that's I love the stories about coming back to music. I had a similar experience, so yeah. Okay, continue. So we met at University of Indianapolis. Your major instrument was?
Flute.
And
my main instrument.
And I was tuba, so we were on opposite ends. And
yes.
Yeah. Right. So our undergraduate teacher was John Berners.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about our experience in composition to start out?
I feel like my undergrad, I really didn't know who I was as a composer. So I don't know, like I kind of felt like I was a little lost when I got started in it. And I kind of started late. Like I spent 2 years at UIndy not composing. I didn't actually do it till, my third and really my fourth year. And that's when the last year I decided I'm not done doing this. That's why I ended up at Butler, because I knew I needed to continue to study if I really wanted to do this. So I feel like maybe Dr. Berners didn't think that I was completely into it yet, like I wasn't ready, but luckily Dr. Schelle at Butler saw something, and that's what got me in over there, and that's what's kept me going now. So
great. You're both Hoosiers, which is a person that's originally from the state of Indiana, and so I was hoping that we could have some time today to just talk about our Hoosier heritage, as we call it, in the state of Indiana. We're called the Heartland of America, and you already touched on that a little bit, but what do you think might set apart, what might make a Midwestern composer special? Nature for me is a big deal. I know it's for you as well. How does nature, you said nature really influences your music. How do you want to expand on that?
Well, growing up on the farm, it's just an open area. There's trees and stuff, but I don't really have many neighbors, per se, like you would in the city. Or you don't hear cars going by, people honking. If you hear an ambulance, that's a bad sign when you're out there. So you just don't hear stuff like that. So I feel like, at least with my music, it's more open and it may be a little more simpler. It's not so complex because I'm not used to living in a complex city. That's how I view this city. To me, it's very complex. Sure. There's always something going on.
Yes. And you talked about it perfectly. That interests me. That topic interests me. We read and study about composers immersed in New York City and large cities with sound all around, and I think sometimes if your music is influenced by something, as what you so eloquently and perfectly spoke about, is an openness, it's not necessarily that it makes our music simplistic or non-academic. I think sometimes it's just simply a product of our environment, which I would love to see that every composer from every background has something to contribute. And I think that you are one of those that is very special and unique in your experiences and your inspiration. So love it. It's all great. Okay, so past. Why don't we talk about? We'll probably be touching back on that a little bit as well. So we both grew up in Indiana. Both Hoosier heartland of America, right in the center. So present. What are you working on right now? What you've been out of your master's for a year or two, and so what's your current outlook?
I kind of took a break for a little bit, but I'm back and doing, trying to get back into things again. I am currently working on a handbell piece. I'm hoping to. You have to understand, my handbell pieces are usually very complex, which is opposite from what we were just talking about. I don't know why my handbell pieces are complex, but
and we're going to get to the bottom of that in this interview. We're going to get to the bottom of that. So this is reason number 2 that I was so excited to include you in this series, is because you are probably 0.01% of composers that writes for handbells. I would love, someday I cannot wait to be a professor and make a student say, name 5 composers that write for handbells, and your name will have to be included in the list. So talk to us about the uniqueness of being a handbell composer. How did you get into that other than just being a performer? What draws you to writing for handbells?
Well, I think what really started was being a part of the handbell ensemble. because I found out that most of the music is arranged. There's hardly any original music for handbells, and that makes me really sad. Like, you know, even as a composer and a performer, you know, I got tired of playing arrangements of the new movie that came out or whatever, you know. Like, that's great and all, but I want something new. I want something exciting, and I broke the ground by writing something very hard. You can ask the UND professor over there. He was like, Amber, what are you doing to us?
I've always been mesmerized by handbells. To me, they just it looks so complex to perform, and everyone says, yeah, it is. I think it's just a unique talent. And your music, which we will be posting, you know, links and recordings to those pieces, and we'll talk about those. What was the title of your first handbell piece? Was it? Oh, that was a long time ago. Was it something about night for bells, or am I remembering correctly? Or?
Okay, no. The first one was actually The Mouse Ran Down the Clock.
Oh yeah. So that.
And the second one was Night of the Bells.
That's it. That's
which
the one.
is the one that everyone loves.
That's the one I was trying to remember. Yeah, I thought that was your first one. Actually, that was your second.
That was my second attempt at it.
That was the complex one. Is that correct?
They were both complex, but that one particularly, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually, how did you get into handbells? Was that at UND? Did you just sign up for an ensemble, or?
Yeah, I heard that there was a handbell ensemble, and I was like, that sounds cool, because I used to play steel pan when I was at IUPUI. I'm like, so why not? Why not try handbells? So I got in it, and I just fell in love with it.
Interesting.
I just love the sound, and I love, like, the coordination of everyone having to play, like, one or two notes, and that's it. Like, each person gets one or two notes, and then you just pass it on. So it's really odd to be playing like that. You know, you have, like, F and G, that's all you've got. You gotta wait your turn and hope that you play it at the right time.
Count.
Yes.
Yeah, that's excellent. So you're currently composing a new piece?
Yes, I'm trying to rein in a little bit, making it a little easier,
a little more
if you will, because a lot of people that play handbells are older people, and they're actually in churches. Okay. So, like, my original stuff that I wrote for, like, UND, they kind of back away from it a little bit.
So, yeah, they're just used to more traditional...
Yeah, they're used to playing, like, hymns and stuff like that, which is great, but...
Right.
I would still like to ease them into more modern music, if you will.
That's an interesting question. Maybe I didn't do enough homework, but have we seen any modern handbell groups throughout the country?
There's a few out there, but they still tend to side with, you know, playing arrangements of whatever the newest thing is out.
Yeah.
Whatever is popular at the time.
Okay, so there's some ground to be broke there, possibly, or an avenue for people to consider a modern handbell ensemble. I think it's great. I was just so mesmerized by so many of the sounds, and it's a wonderful thing. But you're right. When you came out with that piece, Night of the Bells, I was like, whoa! Really blew my mind, and so I was just really excited to focus on that. So when you write this piece, what are you gonna do with it? I mean, who are you gonna send it to? The University of Indianapolis group again, or ensemble again, or?
Actually, there's a contest that they hold every year with the Handbells of America.
Oh. Okay.
So there's two categories. One is for younger ringers, like you write a piece for them, and then there's another one for like more advanced handball ensembles. So I thought about trying both, but we'll see what happens.
Great.
I maybe only be able to handle one, but we'll see.
That's excellent. when you're writing for handbells, what's your process?
I always sit down at the keyboard,
Okay.
but the thing is with handbells, they sound an octave higher than what's written. So sometimes I gotta remember that because I'm like, oh, it's not going to sound here, or I need to write it up here.
Sure, gotcha.
So that kind of gets a little confusing. But other than that, sometimes I pull from maybe what's happening in my life at the time, or maybe how I'm just feeling in general. Just about like anything that I write for, honestly.
Yeah. You presently have, not to switch the subject on a dime, and obviously if you have something else about handbells, please continue. Your current position is with your job?
Oh, at J.W. Pepper?
Yeah. I promise there's a segue here. What about handbell music? Since you're involved in J.W. Pepper, the music distribution company, do you see handbell, sheet music, handbell books coming through the pipeline still?
Yeah, I mean, we saw some in the store. I mean, we have a big section, but I don't see it. I don't know. I don't see people coming in and asking for it as much, unless it's like Christmas, and then that's when everyone needs their handbell.
Sure.
So, or maybe even for Easter, we might see some traffic, but.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I would like to see handbells be used outside Christmas and Easter and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. With a little more modern twist to it. I agree. Yes. I just can't believe the possibilities with the ensemble. It's just, there's so many that I think. And one thing that impressed me were the extended techniques.
Oh yes, I love those.
I absolutely, when I talk about you as an expert in handbells, and you really, your knowledge of extended techniques, I believe you did it in a master class one time, and it was just really, really interesting. So, do you know, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, do you know of resources online where people could go to if they were interested in trying trying their hand at handbells?
Let that one slide.
Let that one slide.
But yeah, actually handbells, what is it? Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, Handbell Musicians of America. They have a website.
Okay.
And it lists on there like the different difficulty levels and what techniques would be used in those levels, and I'm pretty sure there's something on there that explains every technique that you can do with a handbell.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll definitely put a link up for that as well, and so people can have those resources. So the NSC interviews are to focus on women and their lives and careers and their works, and but we're also trying to highlight all of the things that are mentioned in the interviews, just to kind of spread awareness and grow certain avenues for different topics. So that's excellent. Okay, presently, let's see, you just had a performance or two of a flute piece, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so can you talk about that?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the performance.
Oh, bummer. Yeah.
It was for the Florida Flute Association. I have a flute player, Brittany Trotter, I believe.
Okay.
That's how you pronounce her last name. She has played this in Florida and in Mississippi. That piece was actually my first piece, I believe, I ever wrote.
Wow.
Getting all kinds of recognition, which I am perfectly happy with. So
that's fine. Yeah,
it's a flute solo piece. So
okay, yeah. I'll tell a secret. My first composition was just performed at LSU, and it's never too early or too late, is it? That's awesome. The performance it was in Hattiesburg. Was at the University of Mississippi? Was that a women's college?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, we'll try to put up a link to that as well, and their music program. So, so anything else presently going on in your life that's worth highlighting?
I'm looking into writing a bass flute solo, because I like entering that flute new music contest every year. They always do something different.
Right.
So I am looking into doing that.
Excellent. And you know how much I love bass flute and alto flute, so that's going to be excellent. I attribute
also,
that.
Actually, Liz, I am planning on writing a flute choir piece, because I've gotten involved in a flute choir here in Indianapolis.
Oh, really?
Yes. And the one that I'm in, the lady actually has a contrabass flute.
I was just getting ready to say, does this include a certain contrabass player? Let me think.
It does.
Her last name, was that Carol Dennis?
Yeah, Carol Dennis.
I remembered. It's a miracle. So Carol Dennis, the only woman in the state of Indiana, at least the last time we heard, that owns a contrabass flute. She was kind enough to perform on my master's conducting recital with us in a flute choir, which was tons of fun. So how is Miss Carol?
Oh, she's doing really good.
Great. So I'm really glad to hear that you got involved with her group. And so
yeah.
Are you playing, what kind of music is that group performing?
Oh, just about anything.
Anything?
We actually played over at the Carmel German festival during Christmas, so we played some Christmas stuff, and a month ago we played some jazz stuff, so it's whatever Carol feels like playing, I think.
Wow. Any interest in new works for people?
Well, we did do one with the church choir that the church director wrote, so that was interesting. I've never had to play flute, like, in a flute choir with a big choir, like people singing, so I've never done that before, but that was fun.
Nice. So. Excellent. Yeah. Okay, well, so it sounds like everything's going, you're still really active, and life as a composer continues after academia, so that's great. That we've brought up in these interviews, because it is an anthology of women composers, and the topic is just how to addressing the fact about women composers, and not that so much that we are women, but just the fact that we are composers. At the same time, women have we've acknowledged that women have been notoriously maybe underrepresented in the classical music world, and that's obviously, those tides are changing very rapidly as we're doing this interview. I think over the last 9 to 10 years, I'm sure you and I have seen a big change in the women's movement of classical music, and especially in the world of composing. I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you and I were the only two female composers at UIndy, and up until there at the very beginning, we were just a one or two of just a handful at Butler. And so, we just are opening up these interviews to talk about what does it mean to you to be a woman composer? Does it cross your mind at all? Do you think about it? Is it, what feelings does it stir up inside of you?
I mean, do I think about it? Yeah, like, especially when I'm at work and I'm putting music away and I'm like, sorting the band stuff, and I'm like, oh, there's a man.
Oh.
Like, I would love to see some more women's names on the shelves. That would be awesome. It always seems to be like the same group.
Interesting. That was an interesting. I was thinking about your job at J.W. Pepper. Hopefully, they don't mind us mentioning their name. But I thought what an interesting position you are in as a composer, seeing these floods of thousands and thousands of publications that come in on a daily basis. And that really is an interesting comment about seeing all of the male composers, their music being on the shelf. Wind band, we were both wind ensemble people.
Yeah.
Wind ensemble musicians, so we definitely did not see a lot of that come across our stands. Once in a while, but still, there's I'm meeting some incredible women that are writing for wind ensemble right now, and hopefully we'll be. I do not have a wind ensemble piece yet.
Yeah, come on, Liz.
I know. But I've had so much fun composing for all these weird and crazy instruments, and we have handbells, so but yeah, I love that perspective, so thank you. So the other thing we talked about is most of our influences and our teachers have been men, so we can't discount them and their influence and how wonderful they have what a wonderful part they've played in our lives. And we most certainly don't want to discount men composers whatsoever. It's just these interviews have been a wonderful celebration for us to connect as women, share the way we love to share, and to help promote our work that might not be on the shelves in the music stores, although they should be, right?
Right.
Okay, why don't we move on to the future, and we'll backtrack if we have to. No big deal. So you've already talked about the pieces that you're writing. Are you thinking about even beyond that? What do you want to write? Everyone always says they want to write an opera. What are you interested in writing for after you're done with these next pieces?
Well, I'm not going to be writing an opera.
No opera for Amber.
No opera for Amber. I would like to write another wind ensemble piece. It's a big project.
It is. It is.
First one, I didn't think I was going to make it, but I did.
Yeah.
And I feel like I need to do it again. I mean, I've got the experience. I've played in wind ensembles for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm still actively involved in the Indianapolis Symphonic Band here. So, and I know that they would play it for me. So I have this opportunity to hear something, and I just haven't quite gotten the courage to do it again yet.
Amber, actually, yes, would you mind talking about your wind ensemble piece? Is it 1000 North?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that piece? It's a wonderful piece, and I believe that the video is on YouTube, so why don't you talk about that, and we'll send people to that piece.
Yeah, I wrote 1000 North for my master's degree, for my thesis. It's actually dedicated to my parents. 1000 North is the road that my parents live on. That's our farm. So it's actually inspired from the sounds and the emotions that I felt growing up there. It's a place that I am always going to be able to escape to, no matter if I stay in the city or not. Like that, the farm is always going to be mine. I guess I feel like I have a greater connection with it because it belonged to my grandpa, and I never got to meet him, so I feel like that's my way of meeting him. So that's why, when the idea of the thesis came around, I was like, I want to write a wind ensemble piece, but I kind of played around with some ideas, and, with the help of Dr. Schelle, we kind of geared back towards where I grew up, and that's what started it.
Yeah, it's a really great piece, and we'll definitely link to that. The one thing we actually have skipped over talking about, we studied electronic music together.
Yes.
Yeah, we got it. We can't leave that part out. There's so many things. There's not enough interview time for the two of us. So you might have to come back for a B interview. So, so how electronic music? You really got in there, and I've never seen someone work as hard. You were really involved in that. You were bringing in I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of equipment and props you were bringing in for recording. Do you want to talk about your how you feel about electronic music, and are you planning on or have you written anything recently for electronic music?
So sadly, I have not gotten back into electronic music. I really enjoyed it when I got to do it at Butler. I kind of did a little bit at UIndy before I left. Mm-hmm. So when I got to Butler and found out that I had a chance to do it again, of course I jumped on that. And I mean, I want to do it again, but I just don't have the equipment right now to be able to do that stuff again. But yeah, like Liz said, I would bring in buckets and hammers and nails and pretty much anything I could find from the farm yet again.
But it was incredible, the creativity and things that you brought in off of your family's farm was just, it was amazing, and I thought it was incredible. I thought it was just amazing and incredible. I loved it, so I can't believe I almost skipped over that. That was such a good part. So you've got you're composing still, and so what about all of these competitions? You were kind of big into entering those competitions, and you still are. Are you mostly doing the flute, or are there any competitions that are on your radar, or are you always scoping out, what is it, Composer Site? The Composer Site website?
Actually, no, I've been getting on the Society of Composers.
Oh,
finding things on there. Yeah, it's mainly been the flute and the handbell right now.
Okay.
Mainly because, I mean, I play flute, so yeah. I should be writing more for flute anyways, sure. I feel like.
Yes, yeah. You were always kind enough to perform any of my flute pieces, and that I was always so appreciative of that. So you do have a very nice SCI, Society of Composers, page, so they can find you on there as well. So tell us, where can we find your music? Where can we find your story online?
I am on SoundCloud. I do have a lot of stuff up on there, and then I do have a website as well.
Okay, and what's the link to your website?
It's beamsmusic.weebly.com.
Okay, great. Well, we'll post links to that as well. Amber, one thing about you that in Indianapolis that we all absolutely loved, we love you, but we loved your parents. Everybody loves Amber's parents. What's your mom and dad's actual name besides mom and dad?
Besides mom and dad, Ed and Pat.
Ed and Pat Beams, B-E-A-M-S. So here's the thing about Ed and Pat. I have seen them at every single performance and concert and that you have ever been in. I don't think I ever saw them miss one concert, and that's a lot. And the other thing is they are smart, intelligent, kind, beautiful people, but let's face it, they are from the farm, right? Farming.
Oh, yes,
I mean,
so.
there's no way around it. They are from the farm. But I have seen your parents at the most avant-garde concerts I have ever attended in my life. I mean, my jaw would be dropped open, and your parents are over there just having the time of their lives. Tell me, how can we take away from that, you know, maybe you stereotype people from the Midwest, or if you want to call us from the country, you know. Your parents are a perfect example of how anybody, no matter what their background, no matter what their education, no matter what their experiences, they can grasp new music and contemporary music with an open mind and a kind, open heart. What are your thoughts about your parents and their influence for you? How much did that mean to you?
It meant quite a bit to me, honestly, because, I mean, I'm sure they were probably pretty upset when I spent 2 years at IUPUI and I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm transferring. I'm going to start all over. I'm going into music.
Oh, boy.
And I'll be honest, when I said that at first, they were pretty upset with me.
Oh, boy.
They were like, are you sure you should be going into music? Can't you just stay in like the dental field and have, you know, a steady job, you know? I mean, they were pretty closed off to it at first, but when I got to UIndy and they seen how happy I was and how I got involved in, you know, all the different ensembles, you know, the flute choir, the Baroque ensemble, the handbells, everything, they really started to open up to it. And then when I got over to Butler, I got involved into the composer's orchestra and doing electronic music. And, you know, my mom was very supportive, but my dad, let me tell you, he loved electronic music. He thought that was the greatest thing, that you could create, you know, these sounds from, like you said, you know, our stuff from the farm. That's what I would take. I would take the stuff from the farm, and then I would create all these sounds, and then I would mess with it on the computer, and then turn into something completely different. And my dad is just amazed that you can do that.
It's incredible. And the dichotomy of those two things, you know, I think... I know sometimes we get in the classical music world, you know, we perhaps put it on a pedestal that it has to be one thing or it has to be another, and it's the beauty of it is that it can be so many things and we need to embrace. We talk about diversity and we talk about underrepresented groups, and you know, the motto is, you know, inclusiveness and acceptance. But we have to remember that that goes for, you know, no matter what you're talking about. If we fell off the farm, as the way I put it, you know, that's where we came from, and that's our background, and we're proud of that, you know, and nothing to be ashamed of. And it's amazing the people that can be reached through all kinds of medium, and I just love seeing your parents as an icon of that, because especially just that passion and that enthusiasm that they would have for these concerts is great. It's great. So that's fun. Hi, Mom and Dad. Okay, so Amber, another thing about you that's super duper special is you are heavy into photography to the point you are starting to win. You have won some awards. Talk about your connection and from photography to music, and how does that fit into your life, and what does it mean to you?
I mean, both of them are art forms. They're just kind of in their own special way. So I'm a very artistic person. Like I do photography, I compose music, I play my flute, I crochet, I used to draw, which a lot of people don't know that either.
Yeah.
So I just find like art in general to be a way of me to express myself. And cause I'll be honest, Liz, I don't like talking that much.
You and me both, sister. This is the weirdest situation for me to be doing these interviews, but you know, it's a lot of fun. It's hard though, isn't it? It's really, it is very tough. I am no Katie Couric, that's for sure.
I enjoy the expressing myself through art. Photography is actually something I got into when I was really young. Like I started off in 4-H. I did 10 years there of photography, and I've never really stopped doing it. But I kind of put it to the side because I'm more passionate about music. Really, like deep down, I am. But yeah, here recently, I have a picture right now up at Anderson's art gallery, and a couple months ago, I won in a gallery up in Noblesville, so it's really taking off for me, surprisingly.
That's absolutely. You you have won a couple of are they art competitions in the past as well? I remember one at Garfield Park in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I actually won 2 at Garfield Park.
Right.
And 2 years in a row, I have won that one.
That's a big show, or is that the correct term for that? Yeah, it's a big competition, and you placed first in both of those. So, you know, you're to say that, you know, photography it's more than a hobby. I mean, you're really your pictures express just such a deep uniqueness to them, and so many of your pieces are country, and I hate to say the word country inspired, but sort of. I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. They're just wonderful. Your most recent picture that I saw was an incredible piece taken at a Civil War reenactment. How do you? Yeah, and did you? What was that one? Did you name that one yet?
I have not.
Not actually, formally named it.
I just took it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So.
Well, we will definitely feature some of your photography throughout the credits of this interview, so people can get a sense of that as well. So great. Yeah. Okay. Well, Amber, this evening's just been wonderful. I'm so glad that you took time to do this interview, and we're just going to upload everything that we can to get your music out there, and keep composing, girl. Keep composing.
I will.
All right. Thank you, Amber.
You're welcome.